Welcome to another deep dive. We really love doing these because we know you're the kind of person who just loves gaining that thorough knowledge, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's about getting those sudden aha moments without, completely drowning in information overload.
Right, exactly. So, um, imagine for a second that you were a high-profile executive
Yeah.
or, I don't know, maybe a celebrity,
Okay. I can picture that.
and you need to sell your primary residence. But you absolutely do not want random looky-loos just tramping through your living room.
Oh, for sure. You don't want the financial press speculating on your asking price either.
Exactly. So what do? You go to a premium real estate brokerage
Yeah.
and you buy a privacy product. You sign an agreement to keep your home completely off the public market.
Right, because when we buy something marketed as a privacy product, there's this baseline expectation of a lock on a door.
Yeah, we assume there's a vault or a secure server or, at the very least, a really tall digital fence keeping our information safe.
I mean, we crave that architectural privacy. It feels safe because it's binary. Your data is either inside the secure vault or it's outside.
Totally binary.
Yeah, and for a very long time, the real estate industry sold that exact feeling of binary security to their high net worth clients.
Well, today we are taking a deep dive into a stack of sources that, frankly, completely shatter that expectation.
It's a fascinating collection, really. We're looking at cybersecurity white papers, real estate data logs, and industry analyses from right now in 2026.
And what they show is this massive, completely unannounced shift happening in the housing market.
Wow.
Our mission today is to explore how this whole concept of private real estate listings has just structurally collapsed.
Yeah, the core revelation here is that the privacy sellers think they are buying is just broken.
And, it isn't being broken by malicious hackers running sophisticated code in some dark basement somewhere.
Right. It is being dismantled by the everyday consumer generative AI tools that we all literally have installed on our phones right now.
Okay, let's unpack this because this is wild.
When I was reviewing these cybersecurity white papers, the visual that just kept coming to mind was a massive, incredibly dense web of connected data points.
Like a giant conspiracy board or something.
Basically, yeah, because this isn't merely a story about buying and selling houses. It's really a fundamental look at what happens when the hidden foundational architecture of an entire industry collides head-on with systems capable of reasoning through unstructured data.
Okay, before we look at how the AI actually breaks the system, we kind of need to understand the system itself, right? Like, what exactly is a private listing?
Right, let's start with the pitch.
If I go to a premium brokerage today to sell my house privately, the pitch they give me sounds fantastic. They talk about their private listing networks.
And the marketing language across these brokerages is practically identical, by the way.
Oh, completely. They promise to market the home quietly, that dreaded days on market clock, the one that makes a house look stale and desperate if it sits too long.
Right.
They say that clock never starts ticking. The price history doesn't accumulate on public portals like Zillow or Redfin. As a seller, you are told you retain total control over how, when, and to whom your property is disclosed.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, that pitch relies entirely on the concept of selective disclosure.
Which means what exactly in this context?
Well, the brokerage tells you they will only share the details with a highly curated list of vetted buyers and trusted agents. But looking at the actual data architecture of a property, that privacy was always a bit of a mirage.
A mirage. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, because the selective disclosure keeping the specific street address and the exact asking price hidden, that only ever existed on the surface level of the brokerage's own marketing materials.
Because the underlying data points related to your house were always completely public.
Exactly, all of it.
We're talking about municipal tax history, the comparable sales in the neighborhood, the deed records of the county clerk's office.
Right. Yep. The permits pulled for a kitchen renovation, even the casual gossip between agents, it all just sits in disparate public databases.
I was thinking about this, and it's kind of like running a highly classified document through a paper shredder.
Well, that's a good analogy.
Yeah, so you put all those little strips into a clear plastic garbage bag, and then you just leave the bag out on the curb.
Right. The data is technically out there.
Exactly. All the sensitive information is technically right there for anyone walking by to see. The so-called privacy only exists because you are relying on the assumption that nobody walking their dog has the time, the patience, or the physical tape to sit down and piece all those little strips back together.
I mean, the sources from the industry analysts actually define this dynamic perfectly. They call it an asymmetry of resources.
Asymmetry of resources. Okay, tell me more about that.
For decades, the private listing system worked because reconstructing that shredded document required a very rare combination of elements. You needed a specific methodology, you needed professional standing, and most importantly, you needed hundreds of hours of free time.
Right. Like maybe academic researchers studying housing trends might have the methodology.
Exactly. But they were working with data sets that were months or even years out of date. And state regulators had the standing, but they completely lacked the bandwidth to investigate individual private sales.
And a regular home buyer certainly didn't have the time or the incentive to go digging through municipal archives just to figure out what was for sale down the street.
Right. So the privacy held up purely because it was way too expensive and tedious to verify. The barrier wasn't a vault at all.
The barrier was just sheer human friction.
Yes. That asymmetry of resources was the architecture's only real defense. The system relied entirely on the fact that humans are generally just too busy to cross-reference half a dozen different databases manually.
Well, here's where it gets really interesting, because generative AI has completely collapsed the cost of cross-referencing this public data, hasn't it?
It has. It removes the human friction entirely. And to see how this works in practice, the sources highlight a really specific artifact currently circulating in major metropolitan areas right now.
And this artifact is basically a standard pre-MLS marketing email, right?
Yeah, exactly. A listing agent sends this email to a private network of other agents to generate buzz about a high-end property that isn't publicly listed yet.
But the email is purposefully vague. It deliberately withholds the exact street address and the asking price.
Right. It might say something like, coming soon, a stunning private listing in the historic district. 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 3,500 square feet.
And they usually throw in a distinguishing feature, right?
Yeah, like it boasts the only on-block private parking in the area, and they usually include a vague note about the seller's motivation, maybe mentioning they are relocating for work in the fall.
Okay, but wait. If I get that email, I still just see a vague teaser. I mean, I understand that AI is fast, but to find a hidden house from a vague teaser, don't you need special insider tools or, like, hacking skills?
Not at all. That's the scariest part. It follows a rigorous, completely repeatable investigation entirely using the public web.
So anyone can do this.
Anyone with a modern AI search tool can run this 7-stage process in about 15 to 60 minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay, walk me through these 7 stages. What is step 1?
Okay, stage 1 is tax records. The AI starts by taking the neighborhood boundaries and the bed and bath count from that teaser email and querying public property tax records.
But wait, property tax databases are notoriously clunky. They don't usually let you search by a vague neighborhood name or a marketing term like historic district.
Right, and that is the crucial difference between a traditional search engine and generative AI. Traditional databases require rigid, perfectly formatted queries.
And generative AI doesn't.
No, generative AI can parse unstructured data. It understands context. It knows the geospatial boundaries of the historic district.
So it just translates it.
Yeah, it instantly translates that natural language into the specific zip codes, block numbers, and lot designations required to query the municipal database. In seconds, it pulls a short list of maybe 1 to 5 candidate properties that match the 4-bed, 3-bath criteria in that specific zone.
Okay, so the AI has already taken the entire city and narrowed it down to just 5 houses. But how does it find the exact one? Stage 2 is the unique feature, right?
Exactly. Stage 2 is applying that unique feature, the only on-block parking.
How does it know which house has a parking?
Again, reasoning through unstructured data. The AI cross-references those 5 candidate addresses against satellite imagery metadata, street-level mapping data, and historical municipal permit filings.
Oh, like curb cut permits or garage additions?
Yes. It identifies the single property among the 5 that physically possesses that unique on-block parking feature. Instantly, the list narrows to a single exact address.
Wow. So the address that the seller paid a premium to keep hidden is now completely known just by matching tax records and satellite data to a vague marketing email.
And once the AI has the specific street address, the real unmasking begins.
These 3.
Stage 3 is deeds and mortgages. It immediately queries public deed records and county mortgage registries using that known address.
This is where it pulls the exact identity of the current owner.
Right, their name, the date they purchased it, their tax assessment value. The seller's identity is now entirely exposed.
See, that feels like the fatal blow to the whole concept. If I am a CEO trying to keep my upcoming relocation quiet, the fact that my name is now attached to this quote-unquote hidden listing undermines the entire purpose of the service.
Oh, absolutely. And the AI doesn't stop there.
Right. Stage 4, comps. If it
Right.
has the address and the specs, it can figure out the price.
Yeah, stage 4 is comparable sales. It connects directly to the public multiple listing service data to run a comparative market analysis.
Checking recent sales of similar homes.
Exactly, looking at 4-bedroom homes in that specific micro neighborhood, adjusting for square footage and the premium of that en bloc parking, it generates a highly accurate estimate of the withheld asking price.
So at this point, the AI has the address, the seller's identity, and the estimated price. The shredded documents are basically fully taped back together, but the sources mentioned stage 5, the AI also goes after the agent's digital footprint.
Right, the agent footprint. Real estate agents are incredibly active on social media. I mean, it's how they build their brands.
Yeah, they post constantly.
They're essentially walking broadcasting stations. So the AI scans the listing agent's public profiles across multiple platforms simultaneously: Instagram, LinkedIn, personal blogs,
What is it looking for exactly?
accidental clues posted in the weeks leading up to the teaser email.
Like an agent posting a reel saying, getting a beautiful new property ready for market today while standing in front of a very recognizable local coffee shop.
Exactly that kind of visual metadata. The AI understands the visual cues. It reads the background of the video, cross-references the location of that coffee shop, and verifies that it is just 2 blocks away from the address it already identified.
Unbelievable. It uses unstructured social data to physically confirm its findings. It's literally mapping the agent's physical movements based on their digital exhausts.
It is. And that leads to stage 6, the agent network. Because if other agents in that private network are touring the home, they are probably leaving public comments.
Right, like commenting on those posts.
Yeah. The AI performs sentiment analysis on the agent network. It reads public comments from other realtors saying things like, "My buyers loved the natural light in the primary suite today,"
Which confirms the listing is actively being shopped.
and provides even more granular detail about the interior of the home that wasn't in the original email.
Bringing this all together to stage 7, the dossier. The AI takes the exact address, the estimated price, the seller's identity, and the social media sentiment, and it packages it all into a comprehensive buyer-side dossier.
It even includes the seller's timeline, since the email mentioned they're relocating in the fall, and uses that to recommend an aggressive offer strategy for a buyer.
Creating a dossier of that quality used to be the exclusive domain of highly paid buyers' agents. They would charge thousands of dollars and spend weeks producing that.
Now, a consumer AI generates it for the cost of a monthly subscription while you wait for your coffee.
So the takeaway here is that the selective disclosure, the supposed privacy, only works in the literal text of the email itself. In the broader data architecture, the disclosure is total.
Exactly. The asymmetry of resources has vanished. Generative AI just looks at the bag of shredded paper on the curb, takes a photo of it, and instantly prints out the original document.
The external privacy shield has completely melted.
Completely.
But, let's look at the brokerages themselves, because surely the companies selling this privacy product are protecting the data from the inside, right? Like, their internal systems must be locked down.
You would think so, but actually, exactly the opposite is true. The real estate data logs highlight a second parallel failure mode happening at the exact same time.
The internal leak. The call is coming from inside the house.
Yes. The architecture isn't just failing externally, it is failing internally through authorized everyday workflows.
This part of the analysis is just incredible to me because it involves no malice whatsoever.
None. We have to recognize that real estate agents are operating entirely in good faith here. They are busy professionals trying to close deals in a highly competitive market.
And in 2026, they're using consumer AI tools to do their jobs because it makes them drastically faster and more efficient.
Exactly. If an agent needs to write a compelling 500-word marketing teaser for a new private listing, they aren't staring at a blank screen for an hour.
No. They take the highly sensitive private listing data, the actual address, the seller's personal circumstances, the target price, and they paste it directly into a third-party AI chatbot.
They type a prompt like, "Draft a teaser email for this property, but don't mention the exact address."
But the moment that agent hits enter, that sensitive data leaves the brokerage's controlled environment.
Right. It's transmitted in clear text to a third-party AI provider's servers.
It's like a bank building a state-of-the-art vault. with 3-foot-thick steel doors and biometric scanners to keep out robbers, but the bank tellers are casually handing stacks of uncounted cash to random people out the back door just to help them count it faster.
That is the perfect analogy. It illustrates the threat model mismatch perfectly. The brokerages spent millions building defenses against the threats of 2015.
Like external scrapers.
Exactly. They invested in encrypted portals, gated login access, and syndication restrictions, but they completely failed to build defenses against their own employees voluntarily transmitting data to third-party AI servers as part of their normal daily tasks.
And the really concerning part is what happens to that data once it hits those external servers. The white papers note that unless the brokerage is using an expensive enterprise tier with something called zero retention contracts, the AI is actually keeping that data.
Yes, and often using it for model training.
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure we're clear on that jargon. A zero retention contract basically means an enterprise agreement where the AI company legally promises not to save your data or use it to train their future models, right?
That is correct. It is a contractual guarantee that your data is forgotten the moment the session ends.
But those enterprise tiers are expensive.
Very expensive, and most independent real estate agents are just using the default consumer versions of these AI tools. Those consumer versions absolutely retain submitted content.
Meaning the highly sensitive details of a private listing pasted in on Tuesday could theoretically influence the AI's generated output for a completely different user on Thursday.
Exactly.
I mean, the brokerages must have policies against this, right?
Oh, they have policies. But a policy without enforcement is just an aspiration. The logs show that brokerages rarely have actual audit logs tracking what agents are pasting into external browser windows.
So they have no idea it's even happening.
Right, because they lack enforceable endpoint controls.
Let's define endpoint controls really quickly. You mean like security software physically installed on the agent's laptop or phone that actively monitors and blocks them from highlighting sensitive client details and hitting copy-paste into an unauthorized app?
That is exactly what an endpoint control is. It's a digital barricade at the device level.
But because many agents are independent contractors using their own personal laptops and phones.
Brokerages struggle to mandate that level of intrusive security software, so the agents just keep pasting the data.
Wow. So what does this all mean? We've established that the system is completely broken, both externally and internally. If you, the listener, find yourself in a position where you are selling a home or even buying one, what is your leverage here?
Well, the analysts outline very specific, actionable steps sellers should take before signing a private listing agreement. First, you must adjust your understanding of the product.
Right. Realize you are buying a marketing service, not true privacy.
Exactly. You are paying for a strategy to distribute property information through a whisper network of agents while withholding it from mass public portals.
It might keep casual neighbors away, but it is not a vault against anyone who actually wants to find you.
Right. And once you accept it's just a marketing strategy, it changes the conversation you have with your agent.
Significantly, you have to ask your agent some direct, uncomfortable questions, right?
Yes. Ask them, have you checked if similar private properties in this neighborhood have been easily reverse engineered using AI?
Bring up the internal leak, too. Ask them, what actual enforceable endpoint controls does your brokerage use on your laptop to stop my data from being pasted into consumer AI models?
I can just imagine the blank stare you might get from an agent if you start grilling them about endpoint controls.
Right. They are salespeople, not IT security professionals. They probably won't know the answer.
They likely haven't been trained on this structural failure. But what's fascinating here is that the power lies entirely in the asking. As an individual seller, your leverage in a single transaction might feel really small. You can choose to sign the agreement, or you can walk away.
But structural shifts in massive industries happen through informed consent.
Exactly. Every single seller who investigates the privacy claim, who refuses to blindly accept the illusion of a digital vault, collapses that asymmetry just a little bit more.
Forcing brokerages to eventually change how these products are designed and marketed.
The accumulation of informed participants is the only thing that drives institutional change.
So let's recap this whole journey. We started with the assumption that a private real estate listing was a secure vault, but we discovered it was never actually private in an architectural sense.
Right. It relied entirely on data being too tedious to compile manually.
Exactly. But generative AI allows anyone on the outside to uncover all that hidden data in minutes, while at the exact same time, agents on the inside are actively feeding the very same private data into AI models just to get their daily work done.
The entire privacy product has structurally
It
collapsed.
really has.
And, it leaves us with a really critical, much broader implication to consider.
Oh, I like where this is going. What's the provocative thought here?
Well, if consumer AI can instantly reconstruct a hidden multi-million-dollar real estate listing using nothing but public municipal breadcrumbs, social media exhaust, and a vague teaser email,
Yeah.
what other areas of our personal lives do we consider private today simply because we're assuming nobody has the time or the resources to cross-reference the public traces we leave behind every single day?
Wow. That is a heavy, lingering thought to mull over. We walk around assuming our shredded documents are safe on the curb, but the wind is changing and the tape is getting incredibly fast. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking those tough questions, keep viewing the world with a critical eye, and we will see you next time.